Alright, we're back with another video. Today we're going to be actually exporting our rainbow patches into the web export, and we are going to be testing the patches in a really simplified website. We're going to use the rainbow template that Cycling74 provides with us, and then we aren't going to get into changing the style today, but we're going to be setting up everything using the environments so that we are going to be able to look at how we will be able to change how it looks. Now we're going to create a GitHub account, and you have never done that before, then we can navigate to github.com. You can go to sign up, and it'll talk you through how you will create an account. And this is fairly simple, and you can use a university account or your personal account. If you're a student or educator, then there are discounts that go along with associated with your EDU account. I'm going to pause it right now, but it's pretty straightforward in terms of getting set up. If you've never set it up before, then you will have to check your email and verify this account. I'm going to pause the video for right now so that you can do that aspect, and I'm going to sign in myself. The next time you see me, I'm going to have logged into my GitHub, and we're going to talk about why we're using it and how we're going to use it. See you in a second. Okay, we're back, and hopefully you have created a GitHub account. Your web page may look a little bit different than mine. I have a number of repositories, and if you're first time logging into GitHub, then this should be empty for you. What we're going to do is Cycling74 offers us a template or starting website and some files that are going to allow us to take our export from Rainbow and be able to use our patch and make some sound from it. There's some nice things in it that help us recognize some of the params and imports that we have, and we're going to take those as a starting point and build upon those sorts of things. And so if you've been following along with this video series, I have a Google Doc that I've listed some references to, and so if you go to the description of this video, I also have that link there. So if you go to this short URL that appears right here, short URL at BLUV8, it'll take you to this web page right here. And the link that I'm talking about is near the middle of this page, and it is the, let's find it, the web template. Let me zoom in a little bit. This web template link right here. So you can go ahead and copy this link, and we'll pull it up. I'm going to go to my Safari browser here and paste that in here. And I'm going to make this big so we can see this. Basically, it is there. This is an existing GitHub repo that we are going to take as a template and then use for ourselves. You can see in this top right corner, this use this template. We're going to go over here. We're going to click on this. We're going to say that we're going to create a new repo. So we're basically going to take the files from this template and then create a repo for ourselves. So create a new repo, and you'll see that your options should be the same for me. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see create a new repo, and I'm going to be the owner of this. I don't want to include all the branches. I just want to have the main branch, and I'm going to type in here, this is going to be rainbow tutorial, and I don't need to have a description. You can type one in there. I'm going to make it public, and I'm going to click on create repository. It may take a moment for it to generate, and you can see that the files that existed in the original template are now available to us. Feel free to take a moment to look at the example material right here. They talk you through how you might go about running the files with a node server. This is really important because I'll talk you through it after we actually export our files. We cannot simply open the web page because of the way that the JavaScript files and the accompanying modules are pulled from the web page. Normally you might see a .html file and double click on it. It might load up your default browser on your computer. Because of the way that it is linking some of the JavaScript files, we need to use a server so that the browser can safely pull those files. And oftentimes it's linked to security issues. We need to be able to serve all of those files together, and when the browser opens the HTML page, it'll say, oh, all these files are located in the same location. I can safely open all the associated files. In this tutorial, it's going to be slightly different because we're going to be doing things within VS Code. We can do a lot of things inside VS Code as well as serve the template files. We want to think about this, the repo existing up in the cloud. It doesn't currently live within our file system on our local machine, and once we export our files, it's going to live on our local machine, and we need to match these up. So the next thing that we're going to do is, let's go back to my agenda. We have GitHub, we have the repo which lives in the cloud. We're going to make a local version of it in just one moment. First, we need to go and download VS Code, and we can go to code.visualstudio.com. And from here, you can click download. Make sure that you select the correct machine. It's pretty good about realizing what type of machine you're on. You can click download and then install it. I'll give you a moment to do that. I've already installed VS Code on my machine. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll give you a moment to do that. I'm going to pull up Visual Studio Code here. And the first time that you open it, it's going to look pretty similar to here. I've tried to turn off all my customizations, so the experience should be similar to what you have. And what we're going to do is if this opens up, you should see start, new file, open, clone repository. And so if we click on clone git repository, it's going to ask you, provide the repository URL. And what we're going to do is jump back to our browser, and this is our remote repository, the one that's up in GitHub, and we want to pull in those files to get a local version of it. We can go down to this giant green button, and we're going to click on local, and then this is going to be the URL of our repository, and we can click on this copy URL to clipboard, that check mark, come back in the Visual Studio Code, click on clone git repository, and paste that URL here. I'm going to hit enter now, and it's going to ask me, where do I want to stick this repository? And this is up to you to decide where you want to put your files. I normally put them in my documents folder. I have a GitHub folder, and I'm going to select as repository destination. So I'll hit that button. It's going to ask me, would you like to open the cloned repository? Yes, I would. This window should change with in the Explorer tab. The Explorer tab basically is a window to your file system that has all the files that we just created in our repo. And we're going to talk a little bit about these in a moment. So we have now a local version of the template that we cloned. So we started out with Cycling 74 template. We made a copy of it onto our own GitHub repo, and now we have a local version of it here on our computer. We could check that out by going to any of these files over here, by right-clicking and going to Reveal in Finder, or if you're on a Windows machine, it might be Show in File Explorer, something like that. We can click that, and you should be able to see those files here, and that should be a duplication of what we see over here. You can see that there's an export folder, an image folder, a JS or JavaScript folder. All of those are duplicated here. And so for the remainder of this tutorial, we're going to be making edits locally to our machine, and then when we're finished, we'll push it to the remote repository. Great. And one other thing that we need to do for VS Code to be able to help serve the files, we need to add an extension to VS Code. VS Code is great about a whole suite of possible extensions to do many sorts of things, and VS Code can help us serve the files so that we can safely use the web pages and the accompanying JS files and not have our browsers be upset about it. So we're going to go to extensions, and I think I've already installed it for mine, but if you type in go live, one moment, I have it linked to my here, and the links that I've had in this Google document, and it is here. If you scroll down to tools used, live server extension VS Code. This is the one that I'm going to be using for the sake of this tutorial. And you can copy this link and open it up in one of your browsers. I'm going to open it up in my Safari again. Continue, allow, and if you haven't installed it already, then this extension tab is going to say, oh, install. And go ahead and hit install. Once you've done that, then you should be able to see on your bottom of your browser this go live option here. And what this does is, depending on the folder or the files that you're looking at, you can tell it to run a server serving the files within the folder that we're looking at. So going back, I'm going to close that tab, go to the top left Explorer, which is the files that we have downloaded from our repo, and we can go to Go Live. If we click on Go Live, it'll have a starting page and then automatically open up your default browser. Right now it says couldn't load the patcher export bundle. Why? Because we actually don't have any files within our export folder. This is the folder that we're going to put the rainbow export files. So that's the next step that we need to do. But this is serving now the page that's okay. At this point, we're going to open up Max and we're going to pull up the patcher, and we're going to try to export our rainbow patch. Keep in mind that when we open up this is the patcher in Max, and we want to be able to export the rainbow patcher, and we just simply double click into it and it should open up the window. And if we sort of compare, if you're not used to looking at rainbow, the window options are slightly different. But in our rainbow patch, you can see that there's a new option over here and there's some recompile options over here. If we click on this brings up our sidebar for export. And you can see that there's some options for our export destination. We want to be using the web export, so we're going to click on this. I'm just going to expand it a little so we can see. And I want to pick where I want to export our files. And I'm going to go click choose. I'm going to go find that destination. And so this is linked to where we decided to put our GitHub repo, because we want to match them all up. So I'm going to go to my GitHub folder and find my rainbow tutorial. And we want to have the destination to be in the export folder. We want to have all the builds and the exports be this destination. So I'm going to hit open here. I'm going to confirm that that's where it's going to go. If you're doing a rainbow patch that has some samples, then we want to make sure that we click on this thing, this checkbox. But for the sake of this, we don't need to check that. One other thing that we want to make sure is, if you go back to that browser window, I can just show you from here, it says that it's trying to find a file called patch.export.json. I'm going to make it big. Do you see that right here? So patch.json.export.json. Basically, it's going to be kind of like a manifest file that lets it know where all the relevant logic and information from this export resides. And it's going to be looking specifically for a file called patch.export.json. And we need to make sure that that is the file name that we are exporting. So by default, yours might be different. That mine says export.export.json. If yours says patch.export.json, great. But for me, I need to change this to patch.export.json. From here, we are ready and to hit the export, and that's the bottom right button here in Max. I'm going to click on that. It's going to take a moment to export. Actually, what's happening is the files get uploaded to Cycling 74's cloud compilers, and then it's going to come back down. So this actually export does not happen locally on your machine, so don't pull the plug on your internet while this is happening. Once it's finished, for me, it opened up the file, my contents my browser, sorry, from my file explorer, and it had the 3 files that are relevant here. It has the dependencies, patch.export.json, and license, and they put it in the export folder of my repo, and you can see it in we started with Rainbow tutorial, that's what we decided, and going into export, those are all there. And since we have that live server still running, you can notice that in my Safari window, it has already updated itself with the contents of that JSON file. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and you can see that it says sequencer for Rainbow, and that is the name of the Rainbow patch that we created together. From there, it has some interesting information if we had so chosen to connect things or not, the MIDI keyboard if we had one connected, and then the names of the imports that we created of our patch. So I'm going to try to split the screen so that I'm not jumping back and forth. But remember, in our patch, I'm going to zoom in just a tad for this patch. We created a number of import objects. Close this thing. Import objects: import beats, import transport toggle, import tempo, and maybe a couple other ones. Import track 2 volume, import track 1 volume. All of those are stored in that export, and based on some of the template files, it's able to find and locate all of those files. And this right now is the main interface for us to be able to send information into our Rainbow export. A couple other things, some presets. Some presets are useful. For the sequencer, I chose not to do that because our main way of sending information for a sequencer in terms of relevant presets was a list of information. Remember, we can see that here. This is a list of values, and we're not able to actually save those as params as presets. In other instruments, you might be able to store preset values like volume if it's a 1 item value, but since we're using 8 values per multi-slider, we're not actually able to store those as presets, so I didn't bother talking about presets. You can explore the idea of presets inside the Rainbow documentation. Parameters, this is a similar thing in terms of being able to access and seeing some of the values. So we created these param objects in our Rainbow patcher. I'm going to go to the beats one, and this one is right here in our patcher, and we were able to set the min and max, and because of that, for these parameters, it also stores those here. So I can't get higher than 16 over here, and I can't get lower than 2. And it also has the default value at 8. So if I were to reload this page, I'm hitting Command R, it jumps to that default value when I reload the page. Same thing for the transport toggle. So I have this transport toggle set to 1, which automatically starts the transport, and the default value is 1, so it starts at when we load the page or the Rainbow embedded patch. The same other things for tempo. We had a param tempo, and it automatically sets it at 120, and it has a min of 40 and 80. Great, so I think we're at the spot where we can actually test out the sound and make sure that it is making sound. So I'm going to put on my headphones just so I can hear feedback in this recording. You'll notice that my Safari window, if you can see over here, it has a little speaker icon up here letting us know that there is audio that could be coming out at this moment, even though it might be turned all the way down. So I'm going to put my headphones on, and remember that in order for our patcher, the way that we designed it, by default, it doesn't have any values sent in as a list. And so we need to send in some list data. Right now, it's considering the values of the param. Which one is it? I'm going to zoom out a little. It is this track 1 volume. That is the melodic instrument that we had. And then track 2, sorry, not volume. Track 1 values and track2 values. And we didn't have any params that we set up because we said that we can't save list items as params, but we can go to our import and send in information like that. So we're going to go to track one here. That's the first one. And we're going to go here and we're going to send in some numbers. And if we sort of just replicate something that's possible here, I'm just going to do something like, I know that there's 8 values, so 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. 0, no spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. I'm going to hit send. And remember, we set up an output that it was directly connected to our import over here, track1 values. And you can see that the page updated with, oh, these are the values that are going to come out. So this is really great because now we have a way to get feedback from our patch. And you might be able to hear the sound of the melodic instrument that we created. I'm going to turn up the volume. Let's see if we can hear it. I'm going to slide it down. And it's gone. Great. I'm in track 2 now. In this drop down, I'm going to send those over to the rhythmic or drum-based instrument. Let's see if we can hear that. Great. And I'm going to turn that track 2 volume down. I'm going to change the tempo. Let's turn it to something much slower. Okay. Okay, and we can change some values. You can see the output. The output is reflecting those values that we have here. Right now it's really not useful because we have to type in these things and the experience is not great. I'm going to turn off the toggle. I can do it over here, the transport toggle, and crank the volume. Turn it back down a little bit. Turn it back on. Great. Stop it. Right now we were able to make sound from our rainbow patch. Sounds like it's working. We're able to get some feedback from when we are able to change those values, which is going to be really, really useful when we come back and look at things and start to customize the look and the feel of our patch, of our website now. Let's talk about some of the workflow that we're going to do. That since we've made some of these changes, we want to be able to push, we want to commit and push these changes back to our GitHub repo, because eventually when we're done with this, we want to be able to have GitHub actually serve what this page looks like so that other people can experience this on the internet and not just leave it as a local version on your machine at home. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and right now we're in this upper left tab called the Explorer, and we're going to go down to source control. We want to be able to send this back up to GitHub, and what we're going to do is going to go to accounts, and it might ask us already to sign in. You might have seen this pop up on your bottom right hand of your browse of the VS Code. We want to make sure that we sign in to GitHub, and we can click on this sign in. It's going to ask you for some permissions. It's going to say, do you want to allow this website to open VS Code? Yes, I do. And it might also ask you to sign in or bring up a window on your browser that takes you to GitHub. So if you clicked on this, your experience might be slightly different than mine, you should be able to see sign in with GitHub to create pull requests. Make sure that you hit allow. All right, so one thing that we need to do is part of the repo in GitHub is it's able to ignore certain types of file types depending on the tools and the environment or applications that you're using, because they don't want to they want to reduce the redundancy of certain types of files that are not needed or relevant. When we duplicated the template, we want to double check the git ignore. And so there's a file inside almost GitHub repos that's called a git ignore. And we can go to File Explorer and go to .git ignore file here. And we want to go to the very bottom, and you should be able to see one that says ignore imported files. Make sure that we comment that out. You can go to / or put the hashtag symbol, the octothorpe, put it in front of this so that it looks like it is commented out. Hit save and then hit the reload button. Now go back to source control, and you should be able to see these files here that says changes, and we've changed the .git ignore, the dependencies, which is actually empty, which is okay, but the big one is this patch.export.json. And we want to add these changes to, or add them and then commit them to our repo in the cloud. And so we'll hit plus for all of these, and you should see them all in this staged changes tab here. It should be 4 of them. And we can now add a little description in our message that says updated with RNBO export. Hit commit. And then the last step that we need to do, it says sync changes. I'm going to hit that button. This action will pull and push commits from and to origin/main, which is where we want it at the moment. We might make a separate branch that's going to be GH pages. That's going to be arriving in a later section. It seems like it all went through. We can go to our GitHub repo, which is, for me, it's the RNBO-tutorial. And I haven't reloaded the page yet, and it says the initial commit happened 38 minutes ago, and I'm going to hit reload. And great, it says 2 minutes ago we made some changes to the git ignore file and then the export. Before we know that this was empty except for one markdown file. If we go to this here, then we have that markdown as well as the new files that we just altered and pushed to our repo. Great. So our GitHub repo now has the updated files as well as the git ignore files that are relevant for the time being. And so the experience that we have here locally is almost complete for what we might do on the web. We mainly just practice pushing because we're going to do this a couple times as we test what the user experience might be when we start altering some of the stylings so that it's not just a vanilla setup. We want to be having it more interactable so that we're not typing in .1, .2 every single time that we want to change the inputs like we did for the multi-slider. So we want to have something similar to like a multi-slider thing that we had in Max, and we're going to do that in our next video. Cool. See y'all soon.